Welcome to Start With Hello. In previous episodes, we have sat down and we have discussed you, Gary Spangler. We've discussed your background, what Riverwood is for those that may have heard about it, people that have no clue at all what Riverwood is. And for those of you that are just now learning about Ability Ministry and what we do, our organization manages 2 residential homes for adults affected by disability. We have a location in Tennessee and another in Missouri. And you know, when I was typing this out, I was going to say Louisville, Tennessee, and then I was going to say the city in Missouri, but I butcher that. Is it Versailles or Versailles?
No, it's Versailles.
Versailles. See, I knew I was going to get that wrong, so I was trying to be intelligent and just type Missouri. So the location in Tennessee, or as everyone else knows it, is called Riverwood. And one critical aspect to the operation of Riverwood are mission teams. And so this gave us another chance to bring Gary Spangler, Director of Operations, in and chat with him a little bit deeper into what mission teams actually do at Riverwood. So let's start it off. And I wonder if most people think that, like me initially, that mission teams, they just come all year long, or do people out there, do they believe that mission teams only come during certain parts of the year? So first question would be, how many mission teams typically serve during the year, and do they actually show up all year long, forever and ever? Amen.
Yeah. Jason, first of all, let me say thank you for having me here today. It's always a pleasure and a privilege to talk about Ability Ministry. Our work is impacting so many people all over the world, and that's really exciting. As far as mission teams go, we have about 17 or 18 normally, okay? And they do come throughout most of the year. There's usually a couple of months in the middle of winter where there's not a lot going on outside. And it's also dangerous to try to get people there, trudging through the snow and sleet and what have you. But most of the time, we pretty much now got it spread out most of the year.
Yeah, I didn't even think about the snow. Like I've only been there when I've only been there when it's sweltering hot. I don't think you're right. And I think about the drive down to the lake. That's kind of a steep incline to navigate. It's not terrible, but
it is.
It's not bad going down in the snow. I would imagine it would be terrible coming up to the snow.
As long as you can keep the steering okay. If you're going down there and you don't have any steering, then you're in big trouble.
Right. Well, the first time I went down there, I didn't realize I think I had a Honda Accord, and I'm just going to go down there and take pictures. And I got down there and I thought, wait a minute, how am I going to, am I this good at backing up? And thankfully I've got up there, but I don't even want to try it in the snow. So yeah, That makes total sense. So I guess the overall question is, why are I was about to say why mission teams are so important. I think a lot of people are like, well, mission teams are important. And it's just kind of a general statement. But what I'm looking for, I guess, is like some details. Like, why are mission teams important to Riverwood and to the organization as a whole? Well,
Jason, that's a really good question. It allows us to introduce those with special needs to a lot of people who don't normally connect with their disability community. Once they see how easy it is to connect and understand we are more alike than different, it really gives them an opportunity to reach out to people who are either members of their church when they go back home, or come to visit just to see how the church responds to their family members, or they themselves are attending. It really introduces those mission teams to be able to connect with some people that they don't normally connect with.
But it's not just that. I mean, that's a huge piece of it. But also, I would argue that a lot of these mission teams, they do, I hate to use the term grunt work, but I've been there and they're doing, they're doing grunt work. Like they don't just show up and they're like, well, here's some Windex and a towel. Can you clean this window? I've been out there and they're digging trenches. They're hauling rocks across the whole property. They're doing really heavy lifting. And I know not every mission team, every one of them has a different purpose, but there's a real tangible purpose for them being there too, right?
Oh, absolutely. We have a work list that we prepare in advance. And, it really can be some pretty heavy stuff that we ask them to do. Now, some groups come in there and we have to kind of retrain them because it's all about the list. They're wanting to get everything done on the list. And there may be 15 or 20 things done on the list, and their focus is, hey, we're going to get this list done. And we have to go back to saying, hey, okay, the list is important, but we have 17 or 18 groups, coming through, and they're going to be able to handle this. And so it does go back, even though they do a lot of work that we would have to pay for. But the most important thing is to make sure that they connect with the disability community.
Right. And I remember there was one group in particular, and I'm definitely not picking on them, and I believe it was Compassion. And I went into the old house, and there was a huge whiteboard, and that thing was covered with to-do lists. And that was a real eye-opener for me, because I think at that time I was still under the impression that it was just, we're just going to show up, we're going to shake hands, and we're going to be friendly, and that's all a part of it. And they do that, but seeing that whiteboard, that was kind of an eye-opener of, wow, these folks are really accomplishing a lot of physical things too, and that we would otherwise have to pay for.
Sure, and it builds family community too. When we have a mission team that's made up of, say, 3 or 4 families, they come in, and it gives families a chance to work together. Mom and dad, a couple of kids, and they have a project they're going to work on. They're going to take care of this flower bed, or they're going to take care of this portion of the garden. So it really does give them a chance to grow together, and it makes them feel good.
One of the trips that I went on was with our church from Southeast Christian, and the Shine Disability Ministry actually came, and they stayed at the retreat center, and they actually served. So it was really cool seeing not just families, but it also gives disability ministries an opportunity to come and serve others with disabilities. So we've got that connection, but yet we've also got people that are empowered in accomplishing very real things.
Yeah, it's pretty, I don't know, not only interesting, Jason, but it's refreshing to see. We've got 2 groups coming in this year, 2024, who are bringing their disability ministries. And it's so great to see these people who are considered by many that have a disability and can't do anything, which is totally wrong, but to see people working together and seeing people with special needs, helping people with special needs. And it really does show just how important it is to allow people with special needs to take on responsibilities and to do jobs, hey. And
that it's not just a menial job. It's not like,
no,
we need you to be a greeter at church. It's like, no, this is a really important thing to ability ministry, and you coming is really taking care of something that we truly need. It's not like we're just having you do this kind of thing.
That's exactly right. Hey, we've got a fence that needs to be fixed. We provide you with the boards. You got a hammer, you got a nail, and you're expected to get that done. And to see these people who are, special needs, and they are just excited about being able to get it done and get it done correctly, make sure it's done properly so it's safe. And it's a blessing, man. I mean, it is just a blessing to see them work.
So let's say I'm on staff at my church, and I've got a couple of people. Maybe I'm in a Sunday school class, or I'm in a small group, whatever it is, and I've come across ability ministry in Riverwood, and I think, you know what, that's great. I'm going to bring a group on a trip, on a mission trip. What do I have to do to make that a reality?
It's pretty easy, actually. First, you would just submit a contact through our website, www.abilityministry.com, and simply ask for more information. You can submit a contact through there, and then one of our staff members will get in contact you. Many times it's Rana, our director of services, or maybe me, who just calls and say, hey, what have you got planned? What are you looking at? And what would you like to do? And we just sit down and have a discussion.
And so it really kind of depends. Like, you might have a group. Let's say my group is like, okay, we're terrible at building fences. And nobody in my group is physically capable of digging a ditch or hauling rocks. You're saying that there's opportunities for whatever type of group that we've got?
Sure. We connect when that contact is made. We connect and ask, what age group, do you have a junior high, or is it an adult group? Do they have carpentry expertise, or, can they drive a a front end loader, just going through. Have a group coming from Ohio, I think it is. No, I'm sorry, Georgia. They're just going to be several older women who will meet our residents, love on them, share with them. They'll do some cleaning. They normally do some sewing and curtains, and people get new curtains. So there's all kinds of things that can be done. If you can just imagine, you've got a family that's got a mom and dad and 20 kids. We got a lot of stuff to do and a lot of people to take care of. So it's really a great opportunity, no matter your age, no matter what your talents are. It's something that we can take care of.
Now, you mentioned age. Is there a minimum? Like, do I have to be, I don't know, 13? Or is that something that's like, it's kind of, you approach it as it happens kind of basis?
We talk about it with the individual groups. If there's a family coming and they say they've got 3 families, sometimes, they're having a little bit of difficulty at home, and it's a great opportunity. So, you may have a couple of children that are 10 or 12 years old. And what a great way for mom and dad and the kids to really connect in a great area to see people who love without any condition at all, and to see them grow. So we talk with the people and find out what the situation is. We certainly don't want anything to go wrong, because it's really important for us to express to our residents just how important they are, and for them to be able to minister as well. And I'll talk about that in a little bit.
Now, I know you have stories about what people expect to find when they get to Riverwood compared to what they actually experience. What misconceptions do you think people have about Riverwood before they show up?
Well, let's be honest.
That would be a good, let's try that.
Honesty is always good, isn't it? What misconceptions? I had the most prominent misconception is that people are going to a medical facility. I experienced that the first time I went there many, many years ago. They're thinking they're going to see a staff wearing scrubs or a white nursing uniform, and that is so far from the truth. Those that are not familiar with developmental or cognitive disabilities often think of mental illness, schizophrenia or something similar. They almost equate us to one flew over the cuckoo's nest. And it's so incredibly awakening for people on their first experience to go, wow, this is nothing like I thought it was going to be. So it's very important. And the most often phrase, though, that we end up hearing is after a couple of days, they say, I came here to minister to these residents, but they have actually ministered to me. They've shown me some stuff. They show me how to be honest. They show me how to drop some of those filters. When you ask them how they're doing, they'll tell you. How was that for you?
How was that for me? I remember I think it was the first time I was at Riverwood, and I hate to admit this, and I think I've shared this story before, but I thought, okay, I'm hired at Ability Ministry, but I don't want to talk to anybody. It was so uncomfortable because I had just not been around it. And I remember going out to Riverwood, and I'd heard you talk about it for years, and I thought it was a medical facility. I wasn't expecting the white nurse's uniform or necessarily scrubs, but I was expecting the white walls with like the automatic doors and the handrails on that whole kind of thing, you know. And when I showed up, I was like, wait a minute, this is like a lake house on a beautiful piece of property. Like this is, and then I thought, okay, dummy, this is a group home. It's a residential home. And it's tried to change what I refer to it as, because I think facility sounds so institutional or medical.
That's true.
And I remember you a long time ago, you were like, this is their home. And it was an eye opener when I saw it. And I remember being out there on the property thinking, okay, I'm going to do good as long as nobody really talks to me. You know, let me make the rounds and kind of make my appearances. And then one of our residents, Kathleen, who's nonverbal, she comes right up to me, and she's, I don't know, maybe less than a foot from my face. And I had no idea what to do with that. And then she turned around, and I was so confused. And like people that have been to Riverwood understand, she wants you to scratch her back. And I had no idea what was going on. So I was already uncomfortable, and she turns her back. I'm thinking, well, I've done something wrong. And all of that has led, once I've gotten there, and I think that the mission teams experience the same thing. They get there, and there's probably these misconceptions, and they're uncomfortable. And then when they really get the actual picture of what it's like, oh, okay, well, this is totally not uncomfortable. And this is just like hanging out with really anybody else at their house.
You mentioned the word home. We had one of our residents, his mother would pick him up on the weekends, every weekend when he first moved in. And she called me and she said, I just want you to know something. And she was in tears. And she said, I was going to keep Junior for another couple of days. And he looked at me and he said, I want to go home. And she said, she was sick, wasn't going to be around too much longer. And she said it was good to know that he found a place that he could call home. And that's really what it is. It's a home. It's a home. They're all brothers and sisters. And it's a home. A lot of times, many of them will call me Dad or call Rana Mama Rana, because that is where they live. That's where they've got their roots.
And brothers and sisters, and a lot of times they get along exactly like brothers and sisters.
Exactly right.
Too. Well,
Will you stop touching me?
One of the things that helps, I think, is the retreat center. And when I had first stayed, it was, do you refer to it as the old house?
The old house.
So the old house. So if anybody has been serving at Riverwood long enough, they'll know, staying at the old house, like downstairs, there was a bunch of rooms with bunk beds. There was like there's one bathroom.
Oh gosh.
In there. And
yes.
So for those that don't know, the old house was built in the year 1873 or something. It's like, it has that vibe, right?
It does.
It has an older vibe to it.
Yeah.
And so the retreat center is entirely different. So it's set up with like a big conference room, kind of a worship area up front. And then there's two different, it's almost like when we go serve at camp. There's a girls' dorm and a guys' dorm.
That's right.
With bunk beds. Everybody has brand new bathrooms.
There's
a really great kitchen area and a grill. So it's really helped. It's helped the mission teams, right?
It has. It really has. It's been a blessing. When COVID came around, we had to stop work just probably 6 weeks before we were going to open it. And so, but we really saw the advantage of having that facility where people can experience some good growing relationships with mission teams, within mission teams, and they can separate some, and they can go out in the fields and go out into the darkness of night with God's beautiful stars shining, and they can grow through that. But it has really helped us so that they don't have to sleep in stinky rooms and eat in a place where you've just got to have everybody sitting on the floor. So yeah, it's
maybe
been a blessing.
Maybe one of these next episodes we can find somebody, one of the mission teams that served and stayed at the old house, and then
do a comparison.
To ask them what did they think about the new retreat center, because the people that have stayed in the retreat center that don't know really, they appreciate it, but I think they probably appreciate it a little more.
They do.
Having stayed downstairs when the retreat center was built, it was great.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
One of the other questions I had is, we've talked about like the misconceptions and mission teams coming and having that connection. What do you hope that the mission teams take with them when they get back to their church in their own communities?
I would say, in one word, connection, okay? There's an old adage that I will forever use. I don't care how old it is, because it is so true and easy to understand. And that adage is, no one cares how much you know until they know how much you care. I want every person who comes to Riverwood to return home and show everyone how much they care, and especially the disability community, because that caring will turn into relationship and community and end up with a connection with God, who the Bible clearly says in Psalm 139, we are all wonderfully made. We all have disabilities because none of us are perfect, and it is great to know we are loved. So when people go back home, they need to take that message. They can stand strong because they know what it's like. They understand what it's like to talk to somebody who stutters and doesn't mind stopping and listening and let them express themselves. So, it's connection is the most important thing that I think they can take home.
One of the other questions that, and this as I was putting all of these together, this kind of struck me, and it was kind of based on a conversation that you and I had like a long time ago. I don't even know if you remember this, but with so many teams coming, because it's pretty frequent. Like there's a season of them. I'm wondering what do the residents think? Do they like the teams, or is it like, okay, gosh, we got another team coming in. When can I have a break? Like what is their opinion on all the groups that come?
Okay, well, I'm going to give you that in two answers. Okay, our residents are proud, very proud people. Okay, they have medals they want to show off. They have pictures of the families they want to share with people, and they love to share stories and share blessings and things that they've experienced. They like to pray. We have several of our residents that are exceptional prayers, and when they pray, people are touched because it's very honest. It's very unfiltered, and but yes, they occasionally get tired. But one of the great things about my friends with disability is the fact that they have few filters. Most of the time, that's good. Not always, but most of the time.
Don't ask a question if you don't want the answer.
That's exactly right. They will let you know if they are done for the day or they don't feel good. And, the great thing about this, wouldn't it be great to go to church and when you ask someone how they feel, how are they? They say, not too good, when normally they will hide it and say, no. I have a friend I met one day at church, and I asked her how she was doing. Okay, and I was kind of introducing people. They were coming through a line, and I just would ask them how they're doing. And she said, don't ask me because I don't want to lie. And she said, my daughter passed away a few months ago, and I'm taking care of my 6-year-old grandson, and he misses his mom so much. My heart was crushed. Okay, my heart was crushed, and I started praying for her daily. And she has come such a long way through relationship and prayer, and she's smiling once again. And we talk about her grandson and how well he is doing. And unfortunately, most people are afraid to open up. And the church should be the easiest place to do that. But the great deceiver, he's always at church trying to destroy. So I love the absence of filters in our guys. But yes, they do get tired. They get tired sometimes. And it's, they'll let you know if they're too tired, if they're ready to go to bed. And they're never mean about it, though. They'll say, I'm going to bed. Good night.
Yeah, there's never a malicious.
No,
absolutely not. It's a pure honesty.
It is. It really is, and that's good to know. It's good to hear. Love to see him react that way. That's actually one of the things that we tell mission teams as they come in. Don't ask them if your shirt makes you look fat, because if it does, they're going to tell you.
And I think what's sad is that's how we probably should be. Hey, I'm tired, or I don't feel good. I'm going to go back to my room. But so often in our world, we have these filters and walls put up where we don't really communicate those things. So when we hear like a pure honesty, it's kind of surprising.
Or we'll hide it, or we'll say, we'll pout, or we'll just turn and walk away. And then people are going, did I say something? Is it me? Is it you? And if they would just say, hey, I'm just not feeling really good today. I'm not with it. I'm going to go lay down. I'm going to go do this.
And nobody's feelings are hurt. It's like, hey, right. I get it. Like, go take a nap. I understand.
Exactly.
I understand the need to take a nap.
That's exactly right.
Now, let's say someone out there is listening and they want to support mission teams or just support Riverwood in general. But let's say, okay, the trip is too far, like where we live. Maybe we're in California. There's no way we're getting out there. Or I'm at a church and the group that we're at is really small, so we don't feel comfortable taking such a tiny team. What are some ways that people could support Riverwood, the residents, and just ability ministry in general, that if they don't feel like they can make the trip for whatever reason?
For sure. I would say there's three ways to support us. They're really easy, actually. The easiest way is just go to our website, abilityministry.com, click on About, and a drop-down box will appear, and then select how to get involved. And there it explains praying for us, donations, shopping for our residents. It's a really easy way to be able to connect and to support our ministry. We need prayer. We need prayer. We have a lot of work to do. We have man, we have got so much opportunity. And Ryan and I met with a guy the other day, and he said, what's wrong with churches? Why don't they get this disability ministry? And so we have a huge work to do. So we do ask for prayer. We ask for prayer for our residents, that they continue to grow in Christ, and we continue to be able to teach. We have donations. We have to have money. I mean, the fact is, it costs a lot. We provide 24/7 care, 365 days a year. I think the first time that we were able to actually close down was Christmas of 2022. And we closed down for 3 days, and we came back to where we had a water main break and destroyed one of our women's wings. So we're not sure if that's a good thing to be able to shut down. But
we're afraid to close the doors from now on.
That's exactly right. But it costs a lot. It costs a lot of money. We have to provide care. We have to provide oversight. And so we're licensed by the state of Tennessee. So those are some of the things. The other thing is we have a list of some things we can shop for our residents. Just remember that we're a family. We're a family. And if you see a family that needs some help doing something, they need toothbrushes, toothpaste, they need flour, they need sugar, anything that you would normally help a family with.
Except caffeinated coffee.
Except caffeinated. Yeah, you should be ashamed of yourself.
And I learned that the hard way. So if y'all get on the website and you look at how to get involved, there's an Amazon wish list. And Rana mentioned coffee. And I probably should have known and should have asked more clarifying questions, but I put just regular coffee on there. And I think she said it took a day or two or something to figure out what was happening, but everybody was kind of wired. And
they were antsy.
Turns out it was because they had caffeinated coffee. They normally drink decaf, so I didn't do that on purpose. But I think what you said earlier about it being a home and being a family, that's really important because, if you go to the website, you can see the sponsor a resident page. So you can see the residents that have a monthly budget need, a budget shortfall. And you could obviously donate to that, set up a recurring donation, but there's also a ton of different ways. What would a family need? What would a home need? Blankets. There's all kind of things that
light bulbs.
Oh yeah.
There's just everything.
I mean,
paper plates.
You and I were talking once about like printer toner.
That's right.
And I thought, I am not putting printer toner on this wish list. But that's a very real thing. Like if you're running a business and if anybody has a printer, you know how frustrating it is because you get 5 sheets per cartridge.
That's it.
So that's a very real need. And we've started to put some of those things on there and we've seen people contribute. And I know at one point, I think we had to take the beads off. I think we now have 8 metric tons of crafting beads.
I think we're about good there.
I mean, every team could build like 20 bracelets and we would not even touch that. But that's a good example of things that we can give to the residents, stuff that they would need for their home or anything like that. And again, I'll link a lot of this stuff in the show notes so that you can quickly find these things, ways that you can contribute. So if you feel like, well, I really like the idea of going, but for whatever reason, we can't make it. So I think that wraps it up. So is there anything that you need to add?
Yeah, I just want to say thanks for doing this podcast, Jason. This is really something that's, I think, needed, that people can get to know us in a better way. And it also gets the word out there about people affected by disability, that they're just like you and I. They have the same needs. You cut their finger, they bleed. In the springtime, when allergies come, their head hurts, just like you and I. So they're more like us than different. And I think that this podcast really can spread that out and talk about the disability community and how important it is for all of us to connect with those that are affected by disability.
I'm glad you don't hate the podcast because I'm going to drag you on for another episode, I think next month, where those that don't know, Gary put together a book called Does God Really Love Everyone? And so we're going to ask you some really specific questions about that. So I'm glad you don't hate this because, well, even if you did, you're still forced to be on here for another topic. So
that's it.
I'll close that out for now. And so again, check the website for the show notes and I'll link everything that we talked about in here. And until next time.